Hello, everyone. Hello again. Thank you very much for joining us today. The topic of today's webinar is how to develop a customer-centric mindset to drive revenue and growth. And to talk about this, we invited Eamon, founder and CEO of Hive. Hive is a customer advocacy platform and helps brands turn their happy customers into word-of-mouth advocates. Eamon has computer science background, but he has spent the last 10 years, and I'm sure he will tell you about it as well. And so he has spent the last 10 years working in the customer experience space, helping big brands improve their customer experience. The list of brands that he has worked with is long and very impressive. To name just a few, we have HSBC, Sky, Vodafone, Papa John's, Mercedes, Volkswagen, and the list just goes on. And to me, when we were talking with Eamon about this session today, I was blown away by Eamon's passion for his customers and his dedication and the drive to support and understand all of them better. So I hope that at the end of today's session, you will feel the same. Without further ado, over to you, Eamon.
But thank you so much, Carolina, and thank you for this opportunity to talk to groups. I've been doing a lot of talking the last year, running a lot of workshops and things like that. And as you probably know, Carolina, I and everyone else probably, I love customers. I think customers are awesome. And I was just pointing out to Carolina earlier that customers, when you love your customers and they get to understand that you're trying to help them in their lives, they're willing to take out money from their pocket to give it to you. And that's kind of the best kind of compliment that you can ever have. And the main thing for us, and I guess a lot of people in this session are business people, you're out there to help change people's lives for the better. And today I'm going to be speaking on how can you put that extra focus on your customers, and how can you look at collaborating with them in a meaningful way to build and deepen that relationship and essentially grow using that as your growth engine. So if you don't mind, I'll probably share my screen. Is that shared? Can everyone see it?
Yes, looks perfect.
Okay, brilliant. So as Carolina mentioned, today's talk is all about how do you develop a customer-centric mindset to drive revenue and growth for your business. As I mentioned at the start of this, is that we are all here as business people or as entrepreneurs to help solve customers' problems. You know, the reason why we've quit our jobs, the reason why we've decided to go into this kind of hard world of like starting your own business, trailing through the mud and hustling and all this, is so that you can create change, so that you can change culture for the better, and also trying to make people's lives better. And for me personally, I'm all about helping businesses understand that it's not about getting customers, it's about creating advocates for your business. And I'll give you a bit of background about myself. So as Carolina mentioned, what we do is we help brands turn their happy customers into empowered advocates. And actually not just their customers, but it's actually identifying and discovering who in their customer base is a potential advocate and helping them, nurture them to become advocates, people who would spread positive word of mouth. As Carolina mentioned, my background is in customer experience, and I worked for a software company in Warwick called Rant and Rave. And what we did is we set up voice over customer programs for brands. And we were actually cutting edge because we were doing some really cool stuff around trying to understand consumer feedback, customer feedback, and essentially getting that actionable insight from the feedback. And we used to just ask one question and asking them to give us raw feedback. We used to say it is about moments of truth. And what I found actually throughout that 10 years experience, I found that actually brands usually ask this question. Most of you probably received this in the past. How likely are you to recommend my business to your family and friends? And most of these brands, they worked really hard to win over anyone who scored 0 and 6, because those are people who are potentially going to spread negative word of mouth. They didn't really do anything with people who said, yes, we would recommend your business. All they did was say thank you. Very few of them actually went above and beyond to use them. And this is where the idea of Hive came about. Hive was all about leveraging this missed opportunity to actually use those happy customers to promote your business. Carolina, what screen are you seeing?
We see the Net Promoter Score, a missed opportunity.
Okay,
slide.
just in case. And really, Hive was born off that, helping brands to actually leverage those happy customers, find those gems in their customer base to actually grow their business, collaborate with them in a meaningful way, and also just build a relationship with them. And why is this so important right now? It's because you've seen that there's this shift in loyalty. Like in the last, it's say 10 years, you probably find that the way brands see loyalty is through things like Tesco Club Card points, Nectar points, Air Miles, and that's what we call a transactional or rational way of loyalty. And actually, when you think about it, we are people, we are humans, we are naturally irrational, and we actually want to connect. When you say that you've got club card points, that does not necessarily mean that you're loyal to that brand. And there's this shift in loyalty where it's coming towards, it's all about building a relationship. When I'm saying I'm loyal to a brand, it's because I actually feel something about this brand. I have this emotional connection about this brand. I want to be part of their community. I want to collaborate with them. I want to help them build better products for me. So like I was telling Carolina earlier, like I'm a Monzo advocate, and I go above and beyond in terms of trying to understand how I can use my money better. And it's all about this form of loyalty, relational, emotional, is based on trust and credibility, based on trust and authenticity between the brand and the customer. And what we've done really is we, in 2019, when we first launched Hive, we had the opportunity at that stage to actually work with National Express for about a year, where we worked with them to help us understand how to embed advocacy in such a huge company like that. And we came up with a framework that would actually help brands to discover who their advocates are, nurture them and invite them to become your advocates, and then collaborating them or enabling or empowering them to actually do more with the brand. And then the system or the platform that we've built measures and tracks every single interaction to actually see the return on investment. I actually say return on influence equals return on investment. And finally, it's about rewarding those customers. It's saying, thank you for taking your time and effort to promote my brand. And what this does really is to systemize that mindset that we're not here to get customers. We're not here to just get you to give us our money. We're here to create a relationship, and we're here to create advocates out of this transaction that we're having. And this really is to help people shift from this company-centric to more of a customer-centric mindset. And that leads us to today's talk. And I was thinking about what could I actually talk on this that would actually be of value to you guys who are entrepreneurs And as you're going into this whirlwind of trying to make your customers' lives better, what would have been a good topic to pick on? And I thought about customer centricity, because I feel like this is a topic that's not understood in its entirety. There's a bit of disconnect between what actually is customer centricity, what is true customer centricity. And we're going to cover that today. We're going to look at why is it important to be customer centric. We're going to look, what does it really mean to be customer centric? And I'm going to touch on 3 or 4 strategies that you can actually do in your business today to actually help you become, to adopt a more customer-centric mindset. Then after that, we can actually run a few questions. So I guess where to start is really, what is customer-centric? What does it mean to be customer-centric? What is customer centricity? And this is actually a strategy that aligns companies, products, and development around the current and future needs of the select set of customers, not all customers, select set of customers, to maximize long-term, mutually beneficial value to both the customer and the company. And this is where the key word here to understand that it's a select set of customers. It's not all customers, because you cannot develop this relationship with all your customers. You can only develop it with the ones who actually care. It's about doing that extra work for the people that actually that care about you, that you feel connected. And customer centricity is not just a one-man. It's not like a top-down thing. It's everyone in the organization. It's a mindset. It's not something that you do on a day-to-day. It's the way you think. And what it does really, it's telling you that you need to place the customer at the center of everything you do. Your processes of what you do every day. If you think about your sales processes, you need to understand, am I actually working in the interest of customers? I talk about sales and marketing as sales is about helping your customers understand that they have a problem and telling them that, look, your life doesn't have to be like this. You can always get better, and you need to show them the promised land. And your product and services is the bridge that gets them there. So it's looking at your procedures, you're looking at your daily decisions that you make, your strategy. Is it in the interest of the customer? And it's really important to understand the different, the stages that customers go through when they're interacting with your business. You know, at the first stage, kind of brand awareness stage, they're critics of your brand. They don't know who you are. They're like, oh, so what do you do? Tell me more about you. And it's your job to build credibility. And once you get to a point where you've convinced them, look, I will do this for you. They will buy your products. They will part with their money. And if you deliver that value and your customers realize that value, they will buy from you again. And this is where now you have to deepen that relationship with those customers. And some of those customers would go out there and recommend your business. And some of those customers will not just recommend your business, they will become evangelists of your business. As I say, like I'm a Monzo customer, and I joined when they were called Mondo. And well, I came across them when they were called Mondo. And around that time, when I got my referral to join Monzo, I pretty much went, all my friends have Monzo because of me. So I'm an evangelist. And Monzo have even gone further, where they've got shareholders, people they've taken money from their bank accounts to actually invest in Monzo to ensure that Monzo stays for the foreseeable future. So that's the kind of mentality that the customers go through to become, and it's understanding, out of my customer base, who are them that I can actually engage with and actually create more value for them and lookalike advocates or lookalike customers like them. So customer centricity is when every person in the organization thinks about their actions. When they come into the office, is every action and decision they're making, is it actually affecting the customers in a positive way? And that's what customer centricity is. And when you think about it from that perspective, it's about your employees, your frontline staff, your CEO, your COO, and all the C-suite and the heads and everyone. It's about having this mindset that's really intentional, that's really deliberate, that's obsessive to get to understand how your customers are thinking, how they are feeling, and how they're doing in their lives. Like it's trying to understand at every touch point that they are engaging with your business. Is everyone in that organization thinking about their perception and their reputation? And actually, are they thinking about how they can make the lives of their customers better? So the biggest the thing that I need to clarify here is being able to understand or distinguish between what customer service is and what customer-centric is. Because when people think of, oh, I'm a customer-centric company, they probably think about customer service. And customer centricity is, if you look from a organization point of view, it's everyone in a company, as I mentioned. While in customer service, it's very much the call center, the people who are customer facing, or the people who are manning the desks. If it's a shop floor, it's the people who are actually stocking shelves, people at the tills. And if you look at customer centricity, it's actually focusing at the whole end-to-end experience. And when I talk about end-to-end experience, it's from the point of customers realizing they have a problem to the point where the customers actually stop using your products. And from a customer service perspective, it's purely that one-to-one interaction. Customer centricity, it's about being proactive. It's about thinking ahead of the customers. It's about listening to the customers and preempting what they want and engaging with them to create products and services for them. Whilst customer service, it's very much reactive. It's like a customer's call. I've got a problem. Oh, I need to fix it. If you look at customer centricity, it's about focusing on those expectations that the customers have not even thought about. Whilst customer service, it's very, as I mentioned before, it's very transactional. It's focused on that single transaction that you're having with that customer. From a customer-centric perspective, again, people see it as this thing that would, because if you think about your customers, they are your competitive advantage. If you care about them, they will stick with you. And even if competitors try and come in to steal them, they will stay with you because you've got their best interests at heart. And no one would want to leave where they're actually loved. Whilst in customer service, it's a call center, there's a cost to it, it's all the software, blah, 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 and things like that. And the last thing actually to touch on here, it's that the key difference is that customer centricity, it's a mindset, whilst in customer service, it's very much service oriented. So the next thing is trying to understand, are you a customer-centric company or are you a product-centric company? And I think the key thing that I need to point out here is that the difference is so marginal. It's again, it's in the mind, it's how you think, and how you think is how you would behave when you're out there. When the pressure is on, would you default to back to the brand? Would you default back to defending the brand, or would you default to defending the customer? And we look at product-centric companies, they're all about the best product for the customer. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing or good, it's just the type of company you are. But when you look at a customer-centric company, they go not for the best product, they go for the best solution. And sometimes you have to tell your customers, you know what, like, I know what you're trying to do, you've come to us, but you know what, like, our product is not going to deliver the value that you're looking for, or it's not going to solve the problem you're looking for. And that's a more customer-centric company. Product-centric companies, they focus on upselling, cross-selling at all costs, whilst customer-centric companies, they're looking at identifying who their customers are, getting to understand them and putting them into the right segment so that they can have relevant conversations with them, have meaningful conversations with them. From a product-centric company, they look at market share of their products, whilst customer-centric companies, they look at the customer share. Like, they look at what space do they occupy in the mind of the customer? They're constantly at the pulse of their customers, that customer satisfaction. And another one you probably notice, like I've probably worked with people like this in the past, where you find people who they come up with ideas and it's all about developing those ideas. And whilst when you look at, I think in the product world, they're called hippos, they're called highly opinionated people or something like that. And whilst in a customer-centric world, the power is in the people who actually have an in-depth knowledge of the customer. They understand how they think, feel, and do. And those are the people who have the power to actually craft or create the solutions for those customers. And another one is all about the thinking again. From a product-centric world, it's divergent thinking. And I think this is a very key thing. It's like, how many possible uses are there for this product? Well, in a customer-centric company, the thinking is more convergent. It's like, what combination of products is best for this customer? It's not about upselling products to get more money. It's about actually understanding this is the right. You don't need to get this product because at the size of your company or the problem you're trying to solve, you just need this. You don't need to upsell it. And that's the difference between a customer-centric company and a product-centric company. So when it comes to customer centricity, the North Star metric that you should be measuring, or that's top of mind, that's absolute one thing that you need to look at, is customer lifetime value. When you think about when you've seen your repeat customers, this is how you calculate customer lifetime value, or how you see the future profitability. And this is where I talk about growth in not just your customer base, but also in revenue. You know, it's looking at who your repeat customers are, plus the frequency of how many times they purchase with you, plus the average spend they spend with you. That's what will determine your future profitability. You know, how much each customer will be worth to you. And this is the key thing to long-term organic growth. You know, it's leveraging its customer lifetime value. It's about predicting that. It's about understanding your customers. It's about getting that deep insight on who in your customer base are gems that you can actually engage with. And this is actually a start from research by GITBT. And it says that advocates spend twice as more than your average customers. So remember that maturity curve of your customers, from critics to customers to advocates. Your advocates at the top end, they spend twice as more. And when they collaborate with you and you give them that opportunity where you empower them, a 12% increase in that advocacy can represent a 200% increase in revenue growth. How cool is that? And why is this so important right now, right? Is that the world we're going through a shift in where we do not trust advertising. You know, if you think about the world as it is, if you're watching something on YouTube, you're quite quick waiting to skip the next ad. You know, when you're watching, the reason why people are shifting from, like for example, people who are on Spotify, the basic Spotify profile, people are paying money so that they don't listen to advertisement. And there's a shift that's happening towards more of a connection economy, where you find actually some of these brands have podcasts and they have a huge listener base or audience. And this is a reason, because customers want to connect with those brands. You know, customers want to co-create with those brands. They want to be part of that story. They want to crowdsource for that. They're out there buying products to show that, branding themselves that we are connected, and me wearing this t-shirt says something about me. And there's so much competition out there. If you think about Facebook advertising, if you think about social media advertising, there's so much competition. There's so much saturation of people trying to reach to the same customers. And for you to really break through that barrier, break through that, you need your biggest advocates, your biggest customers who are super passionate about you to go in there and infect other people with the love, you know. And this is why it's so important to understand your advocates as well, the people who are actually going to grow your business. You know, you have to understand that as the same thing as not all customers are created equal, or not all customers are equal. It's the same thing as not all advocates are equal. You know, with advocates, they're educators. They're people. These are the type of people who, when they do something, they want to tell everyone else and tell people of the value of that. You know, these are the type of people, when they download an app, they want to tell everyone else that, look, I've downloaded this app and this is how you use it. Validators, these are people who give you a credible, balanced view or review of something. So if you think about buying a car, you know a friend of yours who knows a lot about cars, and you'll reach out to them to give you a balanced and credible feedback on if you should buy that product. And status seekers, this is not in the negative connotation of somebody who's a status seeker or chasing status. It's about people who are about taking value back to their customers. You know, it's about they're the people who are out there seeking. They're the antennas of value, and they're all about bringing value back to their community. And then at the top of that pyramid, you have collaborators. These are people who will give you their time. You know, if you think about, I don't know if you guys know about GiveGuff. GiveGuff is a network run by their customers. You know, their customers solve they don't have a customer service team. It's their customers solving problems for their customers. Their customers are their sales team. You know, their customers are their marketing team. They're creating content. You know, and I think actually, don't quote me on this, but like at some point in 2018 or something, 8 customers brought about 30% of revenue for GiveGuff, which I thought was amazing. You know, that's the power of advocates. I was actually thinking yesterday, one of my friends had, because they're part of the front line, they had a job, and he was out there telling people in the group about the COVID vaccine. And this is another element of where advocates, where shows that this does not necessarily apply in the business world, it also applies in our lives. You know, if you think about the COVID vaccine, you need people who are actually telling people how it was, how the experience was, and actually there's nothing wrong about taking it or something like that. And the reason why it's so important to understand how your advocates are and understanding the different personalities that sit in your advocate base is to understand that how you can actually spread word of mouth. I've found that through research and also just talking to people, talking to brands, people don't understand how word of mouth happens. And people think that word of mouth cannot be done online. And actually, on social media, it's only 7% of word of mouth happens on social media, but they happen digitally. And how you unlock word of mouth is, number one, you need to understand that as humans, we share things that make us look good. You know, it's just how we are. That's how we're wired. We're altruistic in nature as well. And it's for you as a business to find that inner remarkability of your product that would make that customer go out there and tell other people how great your product is. No matter how basic, how boring your product is or your service is, you can actually find something within it that makes it special. When people talk about what's unique about your product, you know, it's about finding that inner remarkability, and also finding those things that makes customers feel like insiders. They feel like part of something that will make them go and tell other people. And then number 2, triggers. You know, it's finding those ideas or those thoughts that would connect your product to the world. You know, if you think about cereal, when you wake up in the morning, when you think about cereal, you think about a brand. And when you're choosing what type of cereal, the brand is part of that. There's a trigger. It triggers you to think about a brand. And for example, a good example of how triggers work is I think Kit Kat, the chocolate company, they wanted to increase the sales at one point, some time back. And the way they did it, they actually did advertisements where they associated or they connected the thought of having a coffee with having a Kit Kat. So every time somebody thought about having coffee, they thought about Kit Kat. And that's how you create triggers. And it's identifying what are those things within your environment, the environment of your customers, that would trigger them to say something about your brand or would make them think of your brand when that happens. Number 3, emotions. When we share, when we care, we share. You know, if you think about politics, it's what emotions, what content would get you to feel positive or negative, you know, and you have to think about, is it going to make people laugh? Is it going to make people happy? Or is it going to make people angry? Or is it going to make people anxious? So it's looking at how your stories would make people, how it will make them feel. It's looking at practical value. When you talk about, we share things that make us look good, but it's also making sure that you're out there creating value for those customers, news that people can actually share with other people. Number 5, it has to be public. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be social media, like you're going to share it. It could be just sending it on WhatsApp, sharing on a story that disappears in a day, or it could be a direct message, you know. But it's finding those moments that you finding those things within your product that are private to you but need to be made public. And then last but not least is stories. You know, at Hive we talk about real customers telling real stories, and it's about how do you package your value and your brand in the stories that people will tell. When you're thinking about building your products, you need to think about what story will my customers say when they're talking about their day, when they're thinking about what they're trying to do. How will they deliver or talk about the value of your company or of your product? And this actually takes us to understanding what value is, you know. And I think this is one area that people need to understand. What value do you bring to your customers? You know, is it saving them time from a functional perspective? Is it reducing effort? You know, is it actually reducing costs? You know, or is it making their lives easier by integrating different systems? But also, you have to think about the emotional value of your products. Is it reducing anxiety? If you think about some of the softwares that are out there, that it actually will remind you when something happens. That notification just reduces anxiety, or it could potentially increase your anxiety. But it's looking at how your product fits in your customers' lives. Another thing is also, another level above it is life-changing. You know, will the value that I create for through my products or through my services, can I pass it on to my children? That's the heirloom perspective, life-changing. You know, will it make my customers feel like they're part or belonging, or a sense of identity? And then also, it's also looking at the social impact. What are those, where is that value that you can find within your products that will make your customers feel like they're doing something good in the world? I think environment is top of mind right now. But what is it about your products? If you think about Tesla, it's about saving the world, right? And some customers feel when they're driving the Tesla, it's saying that I am eco-conscious, you know? And I wanted to talk about this quote. I love Steve Jobs. Like, I think I read his book. I've always been a critic, not critic, actually, if you think about it, I used to be a critic of Apple until I bought Apple products, and then I realized why. And Steve Jobs is known for this quote: people don't know what they want until you show them. And I think people misconstrue this quote, because Apple really focus on their customers. They really get to understand them. And they're curious enough to actually ask the right questions to understand the need. When you think about Simon Sinek, the 5 whys or things like that. And they always look at things at a different perspective. Apple products look completely different from their competitors. And they are absolutely authentic. They're not trying to copy anyone. I love this word authentic, because when you're creating products, not looking at your competitors and just focusing on creating more value for your customers, that's what's going to make you win. And that's evident by what Apple have done. When they release new products, people are rushing out to get new products. I just want to stop here because before I go into the next section on some of the strategies that you can actually implement in your business, I want to stop here to welcome any questions. Carolina?
Yeah, there's nothing in the chat at the moment, but if you would like to ask a question, feel free to unmute your microphone, and we're happy to take questions like this.
Hey, Aman.
Hi.
Catherine here. Hello, I'm loving this. One question's bubbled up. In terms of advocates, I mean, what sort of percentage might that be of your customer base, if it makes sense to put a percentage on it?
Well, it depends. So for example, interesting enough, so we worked with Wonga, and Wonga they asked this question: how likely would you recommend my business to your family and friends? And it varies. The NPS for, I don't know if you know about NPS Net Promoter Score, it's a metric that's used to measure your reputation. Will people recommend your business? And it varies between different businesses, and different industries have different benchmarks, right? Some people will not be your brand advocate, but they might be your customer advocate. And it varies. So like, for example, Wonga, put ethics aside in terms of money borrowing and stuff like that, their customers were really happy with them, because they made it so easy to get money from them. So you find that they probably had a lot of advocates, and you might find other businesses like HSBC, they deliver value, but they have very few advocates. So it varies. So for example, when we were working with National Express, we actually found that customers we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, and we were talking to customers. And we actually found customers love National Express because of that nostalgic aspect of it. National Express was the link between them and them seeing their loved ones. So if you're going to somewhere like Inverness in Scotland or some remote part of Scotland, National Express was the carrier that would take you there. So when they were talking about their stories about, when I was quite young, I used to get a National Express from London to some Edinburgh or something, and National Express was the cheapest one that could get me there and comfortable, blah, blah. So you find that actually customers love you for different reasons.
So you've got to talk to them because they'll be unexpected. You won't know until you ask them, I guess.
Exactly.
Obvious, yeah. They may surprise you.
Yeah, I think I am really excited that hopefully I'll get to work in National Express, because I think I will help them realize that their customers could have a very big advocate base under them. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Catherine. And we got a question from Mandela as well. I can see your hand is up.
Yeah.
Hi. Yes, fantastic presentation. Really enjoying it. I have a question about how do you know the right questions to ask your customers?
Yeah. So remember, I was just telling Catherine about NPS, right? They use NPS to predict their reputation, or if people would actually recommend it. But what actually we found was that customer effort score was a better recommendation. So throughout the customer journey, from a customer experience perspective, you need to ask the right questions. So there are quite a few metrics that you can use. There's customer effort score or net easy score. So this is like, how easy was it to do business with us, right? The other one is customer satisfaction score. So it's CSAT, where it's, they ask you, how satisfied are you with our business? You know, some other questions are like NPS. So it's understanding the right question to ask. And it's actually capturing the customer when at that moment of truth. We used to talk about if you try and ask a customer after 3 months of receiving a service, you're not going to get that raw feedback. So it's also important to understand the timing of when you ask. We worked with EasyJet, and EasyJet was a really good case study because it was like literally across the whole journey. So when you think about when you're getting your bags in to check them in, after that, they know maybe 20 minutes after you get a text message saying, how was the checking in service? And then when you're waiting, so you have to understand the different touch points, how they're engaging with you, and what's the right question to ask in that scenario.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see any other hands up.
Yeah.
So I think we're ready to continue.
Okay, brilliant. So now I'm gonna show you, so we actually did some research with Warwick Business School on understanding what are those things that drive advocacy, that makes customers want to advocate for you. So we wanted to understand what would make me go out there and say, and tell all my friends that you need to get this bank, you need to join Monzo. You know, we're at the shop, you know what, you guys need to talk about Monzo. You know, so you think about those triggers, you know, we're about to split some, oh no, you can actually do that on Monzo, right? And what are those things that that you can do as a business to actually make your customers or inspire your customers to spread that positive word of mouth or advocate for your business? And the number one, so I'm going to expound on 3, but I wanted just to touch on each one of them before I actually go into detail. So number 1 is about making it easy. I was just telling Angela now, the question that you asked, how easy is it to do business with us? You need to make that experience super effortless and make it exceed the expectations when it comes to delivering that service. When you have that customer-centric mindset, your customers, your employees will be there to support them throughout the way. Number 2 is customer orientation. And this goes back to that, are you a company-centric company or are you a customer-centric company? You know, do you orient yourself towards solving for the customer or do you orient yourself towards getting more money for your business? Sorry. It's about understanding what motivates your customers, you know, the motivators. And this could be intrinsic motivators or extrinsic motivators. But also it's understanding the personalities. Remember, we talked about the different advocates, the different customers in your customer base. It's about understanding who the personalities are. Once you get to understand them, it's about how do you make them feel special? What are those things that you can do? Because you understand what motivates them, you understand who they are. How can you make them feel more special when you interact with them? How can you make that every interaction more pleasurable? And then it's about fostering that relationship with those customers. And then when you build that relationship, you need to deepen that relationship. You need to make those customers feel like, I love this brand. And then last but not least, you remember we're talking about loyalty. The world of loyalty is shifting from this kind of transactional way of thinking, rational way of thinking, to a more relational and emotional way of thinking. It's about aligning your values to your customers' values. I do a talk on the irrationality of brand loyalty. And one thing Carolina did mention is that I am super passionate about psychology. And you'd probably find me reading things about like how your brain works to try and understand just how the different transmitters that happen in your brain. Also looking at different theories on emotions and how your brain functions and how you feel and how everything works. So you've got to understand that you have to connect your customer values, tapping into the rationality of your brand to and engaging and connecting with your customers. So the first one I want to talk about is about making it easy for your customers. And I think above all, this is the number one thing that you have to do. You need to understand how you take your customers on a journey to delivering value to them and getting them to love you. So this is a framework or model that's given by Gartner, actually, on the different stages that customers go in the customer journey, or the customer journey stages. Number one is buying. And what you have to understand that with every one of your customers, when they understand that there's a need, that's where your relationship starts. You need to be there to show them, to help them understand the need, help them understand their problems, help them become more aware of how to solve that problem, to understand how life can look like without that problem, and help them evaluate you as the best customer. I think HubSpot did some research and that found that 80% of customers go with the brands or the businesses that they interacted with at the antithesis, or at the start when they had the problem. And once they select you, it's about making that experience of buying your products that more pleasurable. If you think about, sometimes you go on your Insta stories or social media, and you find even on YouTube they have unboxing videos. That experience is important as well to build that relationship further. And then it's about asking questions. It's about at that point, it's about asking your customers, how easy was it to do business with you? You need to measure that, and so that you can track the emotion of the customer throughout the customer journey. And after they've used the product, you need to ask them how satisfied they are with your products, or if they need any more help. And once they've used your products, they bought your products, you need to ask them, would you recommend us to your family and friends? And this is where you deepen that relationship to more of a love relationship. And this is where you get into the world of advocacy. This is the world of where you collaborate with your customers. And it's understanding what are those things that they're doing in their daily lives, or who are those people they're influencing to help you grow your business. And if you look at the bottom here, you see that it's a virtual cycle that goes back to the buying stage. It's helping other customers, like those customers who've seen value, to help them buy, evaluate your products. That's how you create a more organic growth. But the one thing I've got to say with data, people love data. And as much as I'm a massive advocate, I guess as a computer scientist, I love data. But also you've got to understand that you need to merge that with the voice of the customer. You need to tease out the sentiment that's within the feedback. You need to look between the lines and actually understand what the customers are saying. And the truth actually lies somewhere in between that. You can never get a complete picture by looking at the data. You cannot get a complete picture by just looking at feedback. You need to merge them together and really get to understand what are those actionable insights that you can take to improve the customer experience. And again, this goes back to the emotion. Emotion is such a huge component that would actually get your customers, or will actually motivate your customers to spread that word of mouth. So at every stage of this journey, the need, the discovery, the awareness, the evaluation, the selection, the purchase, receive, the onboarding, everything, you need to make sure you're asking yourself, what's my customer doing at this time? What is he or she thinking at this stage? Or how is he or she thinking at or feeling at this stage? And that's how you actually get to exceed your customer's expectation. The next thing that you have to think about is, in your business, is, are you fostering those relationships with your customers? What relationship have you got with your customers? And if you're not, actually, what are you doing about it? And this is what we talk about, customer relationship empowerment. It's about empowering your customers to collaborate with you. And I think everyone probably knows about what's it called? Customer relationship management, CRM. You probably know what happened at when GDPR came about. Most of these brands had to delete their whole databases because customers were asking themselves, you have been bombarding. You are the reason I have 10,000 emails in my inbox. And the problem is that they had to delete their databases. Most of these brands had to delete their databases. And then the ones who, who resubscribe continued doing the same thing. And if you think about the definition of, is it madness or like doing the same thing, something like that. And actually, GDPR was a really good indicator that customers do not want to be managed, and that's why we talk about customer relationship empowerment. It's not about managing, it's about empowering those customers. And it's about enabling those customers with the right things or right tools. So for example, GiftGuff, when they wanted to do a marketing campaign, they sent their customers like props to use for the videos that they were going to shoot. And then they empowered those customers to create those videos and share them. That's what true customer relationship empowerment is. And there's a quote here, like, customer empowerment is an opportunity for both you, the brand, and the customers to realize a greater value from a more intimate and trusted relationship. It's about building that trust in that relationship. And if you probably know it, like we are going through a crisis of trust. You think about the government, people don't trust governments. That's why Donald Trump came in. If you think about advertising, no one trusts advertising nowadays. Like as I mentioned, I'm really quick at trying to skip those advertisements because I feel like it's just disingenuous to me. And when it comes to customer relationship empowerment, we actually thought about it and asked ourselves, how can we simplify this process? And we came up with what we call our 3 C's of collaboration. What are those activities that you can actually do with your customers to build trust, to build loyalty, to be more authentic, and use them as a mouthpiece to actually communicate your value to the world? And we looked at 3 things: community, crowdsourcing, and co-creation. From a community perspective, you need to understand that your customers are your biggest sales force, right? They will do the referrals for you. At the same time, in that community, you need to have conversations with them. You need to have that chat. You need to have those conversations with your customers. You need to provide your customers with a forum for them to connect with each other and talk to each other. I think this is the biggest thing that most companies are scared of. For example, I'm about to work with an e-commerce business, and she actually was telling me that, I'm not sure if I did this on Facebook, and people used to talk. People used to say that the product was late or blah blah blah, and there'll be a lot of negative chatter. I'm like, that's actually quite good. You wanna get those conversations happening so that you have the opportunity, because they're having these conversations anyway, and you're not in the room. But this is an opportunity for you to actually come clean, be more authentic, and be yourself, and actually say, I'm human, and I'm a one-woman team, and I need help. So it's about doing Q&As, looking at Instagram lives, that I've seen that a lot throughout the lockdown. So crowdsourcing, this is about I guess we'll touch on co-creation, but this is co-creating value for your customers. So you're collaborating with your customers to understand the insight that you need to improve your products. If you think about ideation and you think about getting your customers to actually give demos for you instead of the other way around. And then co-creation is the best example of word of mouth, because if you think about user-generated content really is word of mouth online. those conversations that you would have on a dinner table when you're having your dinner in the evening, those conversations you'll be talking, this is the same representation online, because people are sharing videos of them using your product. People are sharing testimonials of them using your product. They're sharing reviews, they're sharing pictures, or even writing content on behalf of your brand. And it's so important to understand that every touch point throughout the customer journey, there is an opportunity to enable your customers, providing them with the tools to promote you. You can empower them at every touch point to promote your brand, and also encourage them by asking them to do things for you throughout the customer journey. There's an opportunity at every stage to include the customer. And this is a really good example. So I use this because this is what my platform does very well, where you actually take your customers on a journey. When you talk about advocacy, when people buy products, I've seen some customers or some brands that ask you to refer your customers at the point of purchase. So you've finished purchasing a product, you've never used that product, and they're asking you to refer that product. The key thing that you can ask your customers here is to share it. And this is where you tap into the psychological aspect of customers. When people buy products, they want to get reassurance they've actually bought the right product, and this is where you can ask them to share with their friends that they've bought something. And then once they've experienced your product, and then this is the opportunity now that you can ask them to refer your product, because they've experienced your product. And then once they're getting more value from your products, this is where you get more insight on how to improve your products. And once they renew your products, some customers tend to have maybe 3 to 5 years, 5 years with your customer lifetime value in that perspective. It's about understanding what else do they need, getting more ideas, generating more ideas so that you can add more value to increase that customer lifetime value. And that's the biggest or greatest predictor of like long-term organic growth. The next thing the next thing that you can do in your business is to build that relationship level that you have with your customers. Your frontline staff, they need to embody your customer values and brand values. I think one of the things that actually, like just on a side note, when you go to companies, you see their company values published, or on the walls, like transparency, or like we're customer focused. I don't know. And I always find that quite weird, because if you think about values, you need to look at the next person who's working to you to understand actually what values this company represents, because it's how you do things. Somebody told me once, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you think about, if you're a more customer-centric business or customer-centric company, everyone is in the interest of the company. So it's better off publishing or printing all the customer pain points on the wall, so that when somebody walks through the door, they understand what pain points our customers are facing. So they understand that the obstacles that the customers are facing, so that they're in the right mindset to actually go and solve that, And this actually takes us to really understanding the different stages that customers go through. And there's this thing called affinity. The affinity, if you've probably done chemistry, you understand affinity in terms of how the different molecules interact, but on a side note. But when you think about brand affinity, it's the same thing. It's the powerful connection that your customers have to your brand. It's how they feel about your business. And this taps into that irrationality of us as humans. It's the reason why I choose Coke over Pepsi. It's the reason why I choose Apple over Android, or vice versa. So it's understanding the brand affinity, the connection that you have with your customers. You've got to understand from a brand perspective, as we are all entrepreneurs and we're trying to build our business, your customers go through the 3 stages in that relationship. they're brand aware, they know something about you, you know, and they might actually buy from you. You know, some of them might not buy from you. And then they build up to brand loyalty. You know, they now prefer your brand. They probably buy again from your brand. And then you go to the top level, which is brand affinity, where your customers love you, you've infected them with the love, and it's about them to go and infect others with that love. And how do you build this brand affinity? Is you need, again, going back to customer centricity. It's not about every customer. It's about understanding the customers who care about your products. So today, there was an event here in Birmingham called Venture Fest, and Ben Francis, the CEO, or this is not CEO, the founder of Gymshark, was talking about when they started, and they found that actually there's a neglected audience of people, enthusiasts, fitness enthusiasts. Because if you think about Nike, they're all about like promoting the superstars, the LeBron James of his world, the Tiger Woods of his world, you know, but they forget they've probably not forgotten, but they haven't really connected the audience. And I think this is why Gymshark has really succeeded, because they've found this niche. They've really like doubled down on them. They've really connected them at a deeper level. It was such a great talk this morning. I hope they do publish it on YouTube, because it would be a great one for you guys to really understand the power of advocacy to grow your business. I think it's a £1 billion company now. They just posted revenues of over £500 million. Think about it, 500 million revenue. That's crazy. And then they serve and exceed the customers' expectations. Like if you see some of their pop-up shops, it's amazing, you know, and their products are amazing as well. And then they stay authentic and stick to their values. I don't know if you've probably seen on if you follow, probably Gymshark is such a good example of this, because if you check their Instagram, they even changed their name on their social media sites when pandemic hit to Home Shack. You know, it's not about Gymshark, it's Home Shack, you know, and their tone of voice and how they communicate their purpose and how they communicate their values, people feel so connected that they're part of this community. There's an identity behind it. And the next thing that, following just down Gymshark as well, it's so important to align your brand values to your customer values. You need to understand why you started your business. You know, you're here to create change for your customers. You're here to change culture for the better. You know, you're here to getting your customers from a problem that they've identified to a world where the world is rosy, they've solved their problems, they're living their best lives. And your brand values need to reflect this. You know, and if you think about brand purpose, it's the meaning of your existence. I think a good example of brand purpose is how brands reacted to when lockdown happened, the first lockdown happened with this kind of Corona crisis. You know, the brands that were just focused on revenue, you would see them. You know, a good example is the Black Lives Matter as well. Like the number of companies that turned out to address some of these issues. You know, brand values. These are the ethics and behaviors, you know, that would actually get your company to your vision. And your vision is where you want to end up. And the main thing with customer-centric mindset, it's that you have to take your customers on a journey. You need to inspire your customers with the vision that you have in your mind and ask them for help to get you to that destination. I think Ben Francis actually mentioned today that they actually had to bring a CEO to run the company, and his role now is just to promote the vision of the company. You know, this is a what we're living in a connection era. You know, and the things that they do are pretty forward thinking in terms of how they engage with their customers and how they connect with their customers. So how do you find your purpose? You know, it's start with your ideology, start with what you believe in, and start with what you want to fight for. Like, for example, I'll take an example of myself. I really, if you think about when I used to work for the previous company, Rant and Ray, I used to stay back because I used to be on call sometimes. And what would you find me doing? I used to read customer feedback. It's so weird, but I used to love reading customer feedback. And for me, like, it's when it comes to sales, it's about helping customers understand that there is a better life for them. You know, that they have a problem, help them understand their problem, and then help them understand how they can change their lives for the better. And really, marketing for me, it's all about help. It's about helping your customers and building that relationship right across from the point where they've understood their problem right to the end when they stop using their products. For me, that whole end-to-end piece, which is customer experience, is what marketing is to me. You know, it's not trying to coerce you or trying to move you to buy my products. It's about getting you to understand that we're here to build a relationship, and I'm here to make your life better or make you realize that there could be a better life for you. And then number two is aligning your customer values. You know, it's about delivering real value to your customers. And the last but not least is be authentic. It's like live your true life. I think there's I can't remember if it was the CEO of Disney or something. He said that your true self is your biggest superpower. When you're truly yourself, that's when you're most dangerous. I guess for us as entrepreneurs, when you really believe in what you do, that's what's going to push you through those dark times. And you have to remember, you need to be transparent. Always remember your roots and remember to collaborate with those customers. So we've got this kind of brand strategy framework that you could probably use to understand that when people talk about brand, it's actually it's the perception of what your customers have of your business. You know, I think Seth Godin puts it very well. If Nike was to open a hotel today, you will know what type. You can imagine that hotel. You know, when Nike said they're going to build Apple. When Apple were to open a hotel, you probably know how that hotel will be designed. You can probably tell the colors and everything. And when Apple said they're going to build cars, we immediately started thinking the quality, the aesthetics, and things like that. That's the brand. It's that space that your customers occupy. You know, that you occupy in your customers' minds. You know, and this is where it comes that your brand is completely integrated to your growth strategy. You know, your mission, your vision, your values, and how your customer values and your brand values are aligned. It's how your employees, your frontline, are super connected to your brand and understand what you stand for, and are willing to help you realize your vision. And they are deliberate, and they're there to solve for customers. It's about understanding both the rational USPs, if you remember that, the elements of value that I had on a previous slide. It's understanding those emotional USPs and the rational USPs, and you could probably even add the other one. How can you get to social change as well? That kind of self-actualization, user USPs of your brand. And then that underpins your whole creative strategy. And what you have, just to wrap up, the things that you have to understand with all of this, just to summarize, is number one, you need to know who your customers are, and you need to know your audience. You need to solve that problem for them. You need to stay consistent, and authenticity really is just consistency. You stay consistent with who you are, and make sure you measure everything. Ask your customers, get that data, put the voice of a customer, mix that with the voice of a customer, and really look at that picture and actually see how you can make your life better. And really what this means is that when you do all of this, you will belong into what we call the connection economy, where in this connection era, the connection economy is filled with companies that really have a meaningful customer collaboration. They have a meaningful collaboration with their customers. They have a deeper insight on who their advocates are. You know, it's not about all customers. They have a really deep insight of who their advocates are, and then they can go and find lookalike customers like them. You know, it's about building deeper emotional relationships with your customers, and it's about personalizing that customer engagement. It's about having those meaningful conversations with your customers, and that's it. And we're all about real customers telling real stories. And you can find my information. You can go and find me on LinkedIn, add me. I would love to chat to you guys. I do post regularly on all things customer. And yeah, and you can connect with me on live on Twitter as well, on Hive Live. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Eamon. This was a great talk. I enjoyed it. I love listening about those stuff. And I know that people who are here with us today, they did as well, because I was looking at the comment section and we actually have 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
And now this is the time for everyone to ask questions. So feel free to raise your hands or type in the chat and we'll pick this up.
Yeah.
First, a question from Kirit. What platforms would you recommend to use to interact with customers for these questions? It was one of the questions that came up when you were presenting. But yeah.
Well, platforms. So this is where you have to go where your customers are. You know, getting that deep insight on who your customers are and where they hang out. You know, if you think about, so I'll go back to the Gymshark story because I had Ben Francis talk this morning. So they used to go and hang out. Their community were YouTube influencers. That's back then in 2012. You can imagine. They were not out there trying to look for athletes or like super, you know, like stars or things like that. They were really connected with their customers. So go to where your customers are. When you talk about tools, remember that diagram that I had about the voice of a customer and the data. It's about as much as I talk about CRM as this place, you need to have a place where you can manage the customer data and be able to understand how you can best engage with them, and look at social media. Go and find out where they're hanging out. If they've got like a convention somewhere like NEC or something like that, go and hang out with them there, because that's where you'll have those meaningful conversations.
Perfect. And another one from Kieran as well. How do brand advocates compare with affiliate programs?
Okay, so brand advocates are people who have used your product, right? I love to use the ones who are using your products, who've seen value in your product and are willing to go out there and shout out on the rooftops that they love your brand. So if you think about the definition of an advocate, is somebody who's willing to put their reputation on the line to promote your business. And when you look at that definition, you cannot actually give somebody something. The exchange is not financial. With affiliate programs, you find that it's actually there's a financial transaction happening there. If you try and ask an advocate, if you advocate for me, I'll give you £100. It means that customer's reputation is £100. And that's the worst thing that you want to do. Because remember, we're about building and deepening relationships. And if you do that, that ruins your credibility. And actually those customers will disengage with you. So one of the things that I always say about when it comes to your advocates, look at the gaming world. Yeah, think about the gaming world. Some of these gamers spend a whole week without leaving their consoles to finish a game, right? And you've got to ask yourself why. So in the gaming world, they have a motivation, or the way they reward their customers is not financial. Some of it's financial, but mostly it's through giving their customer, the gamers status access, so status in terms of what's it called, badges and things like that. And people actually buy badges, which is crazy. And then access, they give their customers access. They have these massive conventions, and these customers come and actually talk to somebody real who's been building that game. And if you think about power, some of these customers are brought in to design these games. You know, when you think about those panels. And the last thing is merchandise. This is the stuff. These are things that those customers can wear with pride, so that when people see them, they know what they stand for. That's the difference between affiliate programs and advocate programs.
Thank you. And I can see that some raised their hand. Sam, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Oh, thank you. Hey, Amon. How are you, Meg? Awesome presentation again. We met a couple of weeks ago, and it was a great, insightful conversation. This is, again, thought-provoking. Thanks for that. This makes me ask the question, which is, the time is as you know, is a huge factor at the early stage in a startup and any organization. And the competition out there is crazy, right? So when the growth hacking and other strategies are out there, how do you see this, your strategies in terms of nurturing and building communities and advocacy, all that process going to play, like from the research point of view and from your experience point of view, how you can sort of, if you order it in a certain way for an organization to grow, is this a sort of steady but long term? Yeah. Or is it like a medium term? How do you sort of rate that?
It's definitely long-term strategy. Advocacy is not a short-term thing. And what I'm saying here is I'm not saying that you should not do other things like advertising. You should still do all those marketing strategies. You've got a whole mix of things in your arsenal to try and reach out to customers. But remember the slide when I talked about but just go back to the North Star metric. The North Star metric is customer lifetime value. And it's about keeping those customers. When you acquire those customers, it's actually 5 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than to retain one. So the aim should be focused on retaining those customers. And from those customers, you need to get those customers to refer you to other businesses. Right? I think Delenta is a coaching business. I think if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yes, we are a coaching platform. Yeah,
it's a coaching platform, and as I mentioned to you before, was that the coaches need to realize the value of the product and then go out there and promote your business. And that's so if you think about as startups, like businesses at a very early stage, we are cash strapped. We cannot afford to do some Facebook advertising and get nothing in return in terms of how much you're spending. I follow a guy called Reese Wabara, and I think he's a footballer who's now he's got like great insights. And he tweeted the other day his Facebook advertising. I think he tweeted Facebook advertising dead or something. And you know what? That's a conversation. Because is it really? Because the thing is this, when Facebook ad started, it was so easy to reach to your target audience. But now you have so many people trying to reach to this audience. When we talk about spreading word of mouth, I will give you a story of Helen of Troy. Do you guys know that story, the Trojan Horse? Yeah. And so if you think about Helen of Troy, like when they were fighting to try and get this city, right? To get Troy, the city. And this was a years long campaign to try and win this war. And they realized they will not penetrate those walls. And you know what they did? They actually built a massive horse and packed all the elite soldiers in this horse, and they left. So the guys in the city started celebrating to say they've won the war. And then they found this thing at the beach, and they brought it back to inside the walls where they're trying to penetrate, and they were celebrating. And at night, when after all the celebrations were over, guess what? All the soldiers came out of their horse and went and and killed everyone. So basically they won the war. And this is a really good analogy of how you can actually use your customers, park your customers in this Trojan horse. If you think about it, park your most elite customers, your advocates in there, and wheel them into the wall called Facebook, and get them to find the right customers to promote your brand, get them to win the war for you. Because if you're trying to do Facebook ads, believe me, you will fail, because there's so many people doing the same thing and trying to reach the same customers. But remember, people, 80% of customers trust word of mouth than advertising. Actually, there's 69% of customers trust advertising. Look at those odds. It's crazy, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sam. And now on to the last part of today's session. With us is my colleague Erwin, who will talk to you about some exciting things coming up at MSD UK and things that we have on offer for you. So before I hand over to you, Erwin, Eamon, could you just stop sharing your slides and I'll bring up Erwin's slides. But thank you so much. Over to you, Erwin.
Hi everyone, thanks Eamon for a very insightful, presentation. I really enjoyed it. I just wanted to talk about what's coming up with regards to MSD UK in terms of programs and what we're doing this year. So I want to start with the Innovation Challenge first. I know there's some of the guys that ask questions there. I recognize some from Delenta. They took part in the Innovation Challenge in 2019. So basically, the Innovation Challenge is a competition where we are getting ethnic minority businesses, ethnic minority owned businesses to pitch in front of investors and our corporate members with the aim of getting them exposed to markets and to raise investment. So this competition is open to all ethnic minority owned businesses that own 51 or more % of their company. That they have to be based in the UK or have to have indefinite leave to remain or be on a startup student visa. So last year we had these 4 categories. So we had digital, advanced digital technology, healthcare and well-being, social innovation, and sustainable future. So if the businesses or the startups that are interested fall within those categories, I'll urge you to have a look when we start the competition on the 1st of March and apply. We've got some really cool prizes on offer. At the moment, we've got £5,000 cash prize for the winner. There's £40,000 worth of scholarships. So what we've done is we have partnered up with a tech business school in the States, and they have a very good startup program for early stage businesses. So the 4 category winners we will send to the States to take part in this program. Obviously, hopefully things will change with COVID by then. Fingers crossed. And there's also £100,000 worth of corporate mentoring for the 4 winners from Accenture. So this is an 18-month mentoring program that is delivered by our corporate member, Accenture. So like I said, I'm going to put my email on the chat there. And if you are interested, please do drop me a line. So there will be a few changes to the program this year. We may add 1 or 2 more categories, and the sponsors will change. We are hoping to increase the cash prize from 5 to 15. But the scholarship and the Accenture funding will be the same. So please do apply if you are interested in this competition. This is the 4th year that we're doing the Innovation Challenge. It has been very successful. It's been building year in, year out. I mean, in 2017, we started with 30 applications. Now we're at 200 applications. So the competition is becoming more and more popular. So Carolina, do you want to go to the next slide? I also want to talk about a bit about the Innovation Hub and what we are doing in terms of workshops. So on the 25th of March, we got the intellectual property workshop, which is aimed at early stage businesses. We did this last year and it was very successful and very well attended workshop. On the 29th, we're doing a workshop on pitching. So if you're interested on enhancing your pitching skills and you're pitching for funding or you're pitching to important stakeholders, I think this will be a good workshop for you to attend. And the other workshop they will do on the 8th of May is the Investment Readiness Workshop. So this will focus on how to prepare your company to raise investment. And this is a program that we have delivered, or a workshop that we have delivered before. And what we've done in the past, we have had a panel of investors talking to the startups that have been attending and giving them advice on how to go about at approaching investors and how to go about it at raising investment. We also had a panel of entrepreneurs that have been successful in raising investment, and they will share their thoughts, on how to sort of, get investment and be investment ready. And they'll talk about different routes on how to get investment. Do you want to go to the next one, please, Carolina? And I also wanted to talk to you about the 1 year free membership of MSD UK. So we started doing this last year. It will end in March this year. So if you guys are interested in joining our network and want us to support you going forwards and growing and developing your businesses, we are offering a 3-year membership. I mean, we're quite conscious of the fact of the impact that COVID has had on small and medium-sized businesses and startups, and this is why we are doing that. So we've got a network of and a large community of procurement buyers. We've got about 60 corporate members at the moment, and we are growing that network. So there is scope for you to engage with our corporate members and access the market and access what they are offering. Also, to become a member of MSD UK, you have to go through certification, and one of the things is, like I mentioned with the Innovation Challenge, is that you have to be an ethnic minority business and own 51% or more of your company, be based in the UK, for you to be certified as an ethnic minority business by MSD UK. But MSD UK is a truly global network, and if you have those ambitions to grow and develop, we work with other sister organizations in US, China, Canada, Australia, and South Africa. And we have been in the past have been taking business delegations to those countries for those companies that were ready to expand globally. So like I said, we're a truly global network, and we provide a lot of support for SMEs, for established SMEs, but also for startups. So I'll put my email on the chat, and I'll urge you to get in touch. So that's all for me. Thank you very much for attending.
Oh, thank you, Erwin. And yeah, as Erwin said, we're here to help answer questions. If you want to know anything about Innovation Challenge, I do encourage you to drop Erwin an email, because he's the mastermind behind it. Yeah, so this concludes our meeting today. Again, Eamon, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights, knowledge, and tips. And yeah, we're here if anyone has any more questions, but otherwise, thank you very much.